Celibacy before marriage is crucial for Christian women because it fosters emotional and spiritual growth. It allows us to build a strong foundation based on trust and respect, rather than physical attraction alone. By waiting, we honor our bodies as temples and cultivate a deeper connection with our future partner. This commitment also helps us to understand our own values and desires, ensuring that when we do marry, it's for the right reasons. Ultimately, celibacy empowers us to embrace love in its purest form, creating a lasting bond rooted in faith and mutual respect.
Let's talk about the tea on celibacy. If you don't know by now, your girl got eloped. And as you guys know, I was trying to wait to have sex till marriage. If you want the full tea on why we got eloped, how we did it, and why we're now talking about it, you could check it out on my YouTube channel. Now that I'm on the other side, let me tell y'all the full tea on celibacy. Number one, I just want to say, when it comes to celibacy, I just really want the topic to be normalized. I don't want it to be this dirty little secret that we don't talk about, because if we don't talk about it, we're not able to support one another. When me and my husband were just dating, I was already talking about celibacy. And my husband was the first relationship I ever attempted to wait to have sex till marriage. I've had seasons where I waited 2 years, where I was abstaining from sex. I wasn't dating anyone at the time. So the temptation is not the same when you're not dating. But being in a relationship and being celibate is a whole nother ballgame. This is my healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And that doesn't mean that there's an absence of conflict. It's just about how the conflict gets handled. Respect and loyalty does not get jeopardized in the process of conflict. So while me and my husband were still just dating and we couldn't have sex, we have to be very, very intentional about how we showed each other that we love each other without doing it in a physical way. So that means we had to get very creative on ways to cultivate emotional intimacy. Me and my husband, we did all the boundaries. We would try not to be alone in my house too much, and we would be honest with each other. Like, if we was feeling hot and heavy that day, we was like, maybe we should link up outside today. Like, we were honest. And there were days that were easier for him. There were days that was harder for me. It was a give and take kind of thing. And guess what, y'all? We did not do a perfect job in those boundaries. We have fallen before. And when that happened, that was really, really difficult. Because we're two broken people trying to live for God. I feel like a lot of people might think that after we had sex, that meant like, well,
we tried. You ready for round 2?
But that wasn't the vibe at all. We actually did not have sex again. So literally after we fell, we tried again. But first thing we did after we fell was, one, we repented. We repented together. We were in prayer together. We also repented separately, and we both had accountability partners. So we both let our accountability partners know ASAP. The reason why that is so important is because you want to keep things in the light. Say you're trying to be celibate and you fall, you don't want to keep it just between you and your partner, because one, you're going to create shame around it that might separate you from God, and it becomes this little dirty secret when it's just like, no, I need accountability. I need to make sure I don't do this again. And you just keep things in the light. One thing this taught me more than anything was that celibacy is not about perfection, but celibacy is about trying to live holy for God. My husband had been celibate for 3 years, which he's talked about in honeymoon prep, before he fell with me. I have been celibate for about a year. The fact that I can even say I waited a year before I fell, that is still glorifying God. Because if you would have looked at old me, 14-year-old me, she would have never even attempted. She would have laughed in my face if I would have been like, yeah, girl, you're gonna be waiting. So it was less about perfection and the fact that God is changing the desires in my heart to want to live holy for him. And the fact that we just didn't start having sex again and again and again and again after that was nothing but God's grace. Because when you open that door, it's hard to close. But by God's grace, we did. You can re-wait for marriage. You and your partner have been having sex. Y'all can stop and start living for God. If y'all mess up, you can start living for him again. There's always a chance to do it again, because your whole life is lifelong repentance. Let's keep trying.
Can you imagine not getting any D for almost 2 whole decades as a 39-year-old woman? Yeah, let's talk about it. It's no surprise that the number one question that I always get asked whenever this topic comes up is, girl, how? And I'm always tempted to respond with, well, I just don't do it. But I understand that when people ask me that question, what they're really saying is, I don't think I could ever not do it. So how are you managing to not do it? A lot of people just cannot fathom the idea of living and existing without experiencing D activities every now and then. And as someone who has previously been involved in D activities and enjoyed it, hello, I totally understand where you're coming from. I was once at that place, but now I'm over here, almost 19 years deep with no D, living a pretty normal and healthy life. And most importantly, experiencing the benefits and the blessings of being obedient to God's word and will in this area of my life. Now, I know obedience isn't easy, and for those who are struggling to abstain from D activities but desire to, sis, I got you. Stay tuned for more.
So I made the decision to become abstinent a little over 10 years ago. And I just want to share some benefits that I've discovered about waiting until marriage. The first thing that I realized was you really get to find out if someone actually likes you for you and not how your body serves them. And I think at the time, this was something that I really needed to know about myself. I feel like I kind of led with my body a lot of the times back then. And what it showed me is that a lot of men were not really in it because they wanted a long-term relationship with me. They essentially just wanted me for my body. Once I became abstinent, I started to weed out a lot of guys who were not there for the right reasons. Number two is that it improved the communication that I did have in relationships. I know specifically for me, back in those times when I was engaging in that type of intimacy, we would kind of use that as like a cover up to not talk about problems. So instead of communicating about the things that bothered us or the ways that we could fix our relationship, we kind of masked it by engaging in sex. And I have seen the maturity in my relationships now, the maturity in myself, because I actually had to develop in learning how to communicate instead of just using intimacy as a way to kind of scapegoat problems. Number three, it helped my confidence. I think that a lot of the time I would lead with my body, and I really needed to know that there were other things about me that were just as special, just as precious. And I started to work on things like my personality, my character, my inner qualities that actually mattered. And I just wanted to know that I could be desired and wanted without having to give of myself in that way. And it really just makes you confident. Like, I can still have a man without having to offer that part of myself to them. Because I think that sometimes as women, we think that that's just a package deal, that we cannot have a man that will commit if we don't offer that part of ourselves. And it's just untrue. And I think for me, it's been a huge thing in helping me realize that I am so much more than my body, that I am still deserving and worthy of love if I don't give that to someone who isn't my husband. And I think it's helped me become a lot more confident. I also realized that I became a lot more focused, and I have been a lot more focused on my life and my goals and my achievements, because I do think when you are connecting with someone in that way, you can be so engulfed in the relationship and like wanting to make the relationship work because you have tied yourself to someone in that way. And I feel like I've just been able to focus on myself more. Even when I am in a relationship, I don't feel like my whole life is wrapped up in that person. And number four, and probably the most important of all of them, is it has strengthened my relationship with God. It has taught me to trust God with that part of my life. And I do remember when I used to think there was absolutely no way that I would be able to wait until marriage, because I was living a life where it did not look like that was ever a possibility. But God totally has kept me, and He's shown me that I actually can live my life and I'm going to be fine. I'm breathing. I'm still eating, moving, living life, and I haven't died yet. So it's absolutely possible. And it has totally helped me to trust Him in other areas of my life as well. And so if you are someone who has been either thinking about or on the fence about whether they want to make the decision to wait until marriage, I would encourage you to continue to think about that. And also, if you are someone who is a believer, just trust God with that part of your life. I know when you've been engaging in it for a while, while or you've done it, it almost seems impossible to not do it anymore. But something that always stuck out to me was that when I am engaging in intimacy with someone who is not my spouse, I'm potentially doing that with someone who could be someone else's spouse. Because at the end of the day, until you walk down the aisle and marry someone, they're not your husband or wife yet. And you don't know the future. And you don't know if that person will actually become your spouse. And so protecting my heart, but also protecting the other person's heart in that way, to say, hey, I'm not going to engage in this with you until I know that you are absolutely my spouse, and vice versa. And I think it's another way that we can just show love to other people. Love is sacrificial. Love is not self-gratifying and us getting what we want all the time. And so it's taught me a lot about love, and I think it's made a huge impact in my connection with God.